Alright, let's expand part 1 into a 1000-word dramatic narrative. Here's the full scene written with deep detail, emotional beats, and vivid description. The rain had been falling since morning, a slow, cold drizzle that slicked the marble steps of the Alvarez estate and painted the city skyline in shades of gray. Inside, the warmth of the chandelier light did nothing to thaw the frost in the air. Amelia Alvarez, 8 months pregnant, exhausted, and wearing a dress that strained against her swollen belly, stood by the grand dining table, a tray trembling in her hands. "Careful," came the voice from across the room, sharp as broken glass. Cassandra Vale reclined in the head chair like a queen on her throne, legs crossed, crimson silk gown spilling across the floor. Her lips curved in a smile that was more weapon than kindness. "You wouldn't want to drop that. Not in your condition." Amelia didn't respond. She lowered the tray to the table, setting down the crystal flute of champagne and the plate of imported truffles. Her back ached. Her ankles burned. But the humiliation was worse than the pain. Behind her, the low click of Italian leather shoes echoed through the room. Marcus Alvarez, her husband, entered without so much as a glance in her direction. The billionaire CEO carried himself like a man untouchable by storms, his tailored charcoal suit immaculate, his eyes locked on Cassandra. "You're late," Cassandra purred, holding out her hand. Marcus took it, pressing his lips to her knuckles with an intimacy that twisted Amelia's stomach. "I was finalizing the Tokyo deal," he said smoothly. "But for you, I'd cross oceans." The words were for Cassandra, but Amelia felt every syllable like a slap. Marcus finally acknowledged her, not as his wife, but as if she were staff. "Pour her another drink, Amelia. And bring the bottle from the cellar." The 96. She hesitated. Her hands curled into fists at her sides. The 96 was rare, expensive. A bottle they had planned to open together when their child was born. She opened her mouth to refuse, then caught the steel in his gaze. "Yes, sir," she whispered. As she left the dining room, her mind spun. 2 years ago, she'd been his pride, the center of his world. Now she was an inconvenience, tolerated only because of the air she carried. Cassandra had arrived 6 months ago, a business partner, who quickly became Marcus's obsession. It wasn't enough for Cassandra to steal his attention, she wanted Amelia humiliated, broken. And Marcus allowed it. In the cellar, Amelia's hands shook as she found the bottle. She could hear faint laughter drifting down the stairs, Cassandra's lilting, Marcus's deep and amused. Her vision blurred. She had never felt so alone. When she returned, Cassandra was lounging back, her hand casually resting on Marcus's knee. "She's slow," Cassandra said without looking at her. "Do you make her work like this often?" "Not enough," Marcus said, his voice cold. Amelia set the bottle down and stepped back. Cassandra reached for the glass, then glanced up with feigned innocence. "Oh, Amelia, be a dear and help me with my shoes. My feet ache after such a long day." It was deliberate. The entire scene was staged to push her further down, to strip her of dignity. Amelia knelt, the weight of her belly pressing uncomfortably on her lungs, and began to unfasten the delicate straps of Cassandra's heels. The other woman's perfume was suffocating, her smirk ever present. When she finished, Cassandra stretched her legs, toes painted a deep red. "Much better," she murmured. "You really are useful for something after all." Marcus didn't intervene. He didn't even look away. Later, Amelia climbed the sweeping staircase to the bedroom she no longer shared with her husband. Her steps were heavy, her body aching. The echo of Cassandra's laughter followed her like a ghost. In her room, she pressed her hands to her stomach, feeling the faint kick of the child within. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Mama's going to fix this. Somehow." Far across the city, in a glass-walled office atop the headquarters of Vale Industries, another woman stared out at the rain. Evelyn Vale, CEO, was everything her twin sister Amelia was not in that moment: powerful, unyielding, and feared in the boardroom. She hadn't spoken to Amelia in months, not since the marriage to Marcus drove a wedge between them. Evelyn had warned her. Marcus was charming until he got what he wanted. Then he'd take more. But when Evelyn's private phone rang that night, and she heard Amelia's trembling voice asking to meet, the frost between them began to crack. 2 hours later, they sat in a corner booth at a quiet restaurant. Evelyn took in her sister's pale face, the dark circles under her eyes, the way she winced when she moved. And the story spilled out. Every cruel order, every public humiliation, every night alone while her husband flaunted his mistress under their roof. When Amelia finished, Evelyn was silent for a long moment. Then she said, "You should have called me the first time he made you serve her." "I didn't want to drag you into it," Amelia said softly. Evelyn's eyes hardened. "He dragged himself into it the moment he touched my family." Amelia shook her head. "I don't want a war. I just want to survive until the baby's born." "You're not going to survive by staying quiet," Evelyn said, her voice low and dangerous. "You're going to survive by making him wish he'd never underestimated you. And I'm going to help you." Amelia's lips trembled. "Evelyn." Her twin leaned forward, taking her hands. "He thinks you're trapped. He thinks you're weak. But he doesn't know what it means to cross a veil. I built an empire from nothing. I can dismantle his without breaking a sweat." The thought of revenge scared Amelia, but it also warmed her, like the first flicker of light after months in darkness. Back at the Alvarez estate, Marcus and Cassandra were still in the dining room, toasting to some private joke. Neither knew that the balance of power had shifted. Neither saw the faint, fierce spark in Amelia's eyes when she returned that night. She moved through the house silently, but her mind was no longer heavy with helplessness. Evelyn's words echoed in her ears. There was a plan forming, one that would use Marcus's own arrogance against him. In the nursery, she traced her fingers over the edge of the crib, imagining a future where her child would never know this house is a prison. A future where Marcus Alvarez was nothing more than a cautionary tale. Somewhere downstairs, a glass shattered, followed by Cassandra's sharp voice. Amelia didn't flinch. Not anymore. The rain continued to fall outside, but in her heart, the storm was changing. Do you want me to continue with part 2 immediately so the revenge arc kicks into motion? Elena stared at the grainy photo on her phone, her heart pounding like a war drum. It was her twin sister, Sophia, kneeling on the marble floor of that opulent mansion, a tray balanced precariously in her hands. Sophia's belly was swollen with pregnancy, her face pale and drawn, eyes downcast as she served tea to a smirking woman lounging on the couch, the mistress. The billionaire husband, Victor Langston, stood in the background, arms crossed, a smug grin etched on his face. Elena's fingers tightened around the device until her knuckles whitened. How had it come to this? Sophia, the gentle one, the artist who dreamed of quiet galleries and soft canvases, reduced to this humiliation. Elena paced her corner office on the 50th floor of Apex Innovations, the tech empire she'd built from scratch. As CEO, she commanded boardrooms, crushed competitors, and turned ideas into billions. But family. That was Sophia's domain. They'd been inseparable growing up, two halves of the same soul, until Victor swept Sophia off her feet with his charm and wealth. Elena had warned her, Victor was a shark in a suit, his love conditional on obedience. Now, this photo, leaked by a sympathetic maid, confirmed her worst fears. Sophia was 5 months pregnant, trapped in a gilded cage, forced to cater to Victor's latest fling, that socialite tramp named Lila. Rage boiled in Elena's veins, but she channeled it into cold calculation. Revenge wasn't about screams or slaps, it was about dismantling empires, piece by meticulously planned piece. She sat at her desk, the city skyline twinkling below like fallen stars, and began plotting. First, information. Victor's company, Langston Enterprises, was a behemoth in real estate and finance, but Elena knew where the cracks were. Whispers of insider trading, tax evasion, and shady offshore accounts had circled for years. She needed proof. She picked up her phone and dialed Marcus, her head of security and a former CIA operative. Marcus, I need everything on Victor Langston. Dig deep. Finances, affairs, skeletons. And find out about Lila Voss. She's the mistress. Consider it done, boss, Marcus replied, his voice steady. While waiting, Elena thought of Sophia. They'd spoken last week, Sophia's voice trembling over the line, dismissing Elena's concerns as marital rough patches. But Elena saw through it, the fear, the isolation. Victor had cut Sophia off from friends, monitored her calls, even forbidden her art. Now this degradation, forcing a pregnant woman to serve his lover. It was psychological warfare, designed to break her spirit. By morning, Marcus delivered a dossier thick as a novel. Victor's empire was rotting from within. He'd embezzled funds from investor trusts to fund his lavish lifestyle, including a secret yacht where he entertained mistresses. Lila wasn't his first, there were others, paid off or threatened into silence. And the kicker, Victor had a hidden stake in a rival tech firm that was poaching Apex's patents. Conflict of interest. Try corporate espionage. Elena smiled for the first Azaka time in hours. This was ammunition. But revenge needed finesse. She couldn't just leak it, she had to make Victor feel the same helplessness Sophia endured. Step 1. Isolate him. Elena used her connections to whisper doubts into the ears of Victor's board members. Anonymous tips about financial irregularities, backed by snippets from the dossier. Stock prices dipped subtly at first, then plummeted as rumors snowballed. Victor's phone would be ringing off the hook, investors pulling out, partners distancing themselves. Meanwhile, Elena reached out to Sophia covertly. She sent a burner phone hidden in a care package disguised as baby clothes. Soph, it's me. I know what's happening. I'm coming for you. Trust me. Sophia's reply was a single word: hurry. Step 2. Target the mistress. Lila Voss was a gold digger extraordinaire, her social media a parade of luxury bags and private jets, all courtesy of Victor. Elena hacked into Lila's accounts, ethically, through a white hat firm she owned, and planted seeds of doubt. Forged messages from Victor, calling her temporary, replaceable. Then, Elena anonymously tipped off Lila's ex-boyfriends, stirring jealousy. Soon, Lila was posting cryptic rants about ungrateful men, her alliance with Victor fracturing. But Elena wasn't done. She needed Victor to suffer publicly, just as he'd humiliated Sophia. She arranged a gala, the annual Tech Innovators Ball, where Victor was set to receive an award. Elena, as a keynote speaker, would turn the spotlight on him, in the worst way. The night arrived, the ballroom glittering with chandeliers and champagne flutes. Victor strode in with Lila on his arm, Sophia trailing behind like a shadow, her pregnancy hidden under a loose gown. Elena watched from the wings, her black dress sharp as a blade. Sophia caught her eye across the room, a flicker of hope in her weary gaze. As Victor accepted his award, beaming under the applause, Elena took the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, her voice amplified and commanding, tonight we honor innovation. But true innovation requires integrity, something Victor Langston lacks. The room hushed. Victor's smile faltered. Elena projected slides, redacted documents, emails, bank statements. Mr. Langston has embezzled millions, spied on competitors, and worst of all, abused those closest to him. She paused, locking eyes with Victor. Including forcing his pregnant wife to serve his mistress. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Cameras flashed. Victor lunged toward the stage, but security, Elena's security, held him back. Lila slunk away, her face ashen. Sophia stepped forward, her voice trembling but strong. It's true. All of it. Chaos erupted. Reporters swarmed, board members distanced themselves publicly. By morning, Langston Enterprises stock had tanked 40%, federal investigations launched. Victor was arrested for fraud, his assets frozen. Elena whisked Sophia away to her penthouse, where doctors confirmed the baby was healthy despite the stress. You're safe now, Elena whispered, hugging her sister. But revenge had layers. Elena bought out Langston Enterprises in a hostile takeover, renaming it Twin Peaks Innovations, a nod to their bond. Victor, bankrupt and disgraced, ended up in a dingy apartment. His mistresses gone, his power evaporated. Months later, Sophia gave birth to a healthy boy, naming him Alex after their late father. Elena stood as godmother, her empire stronger, her family whole. Victor's pleas for mercy went unanswered. He'd forced Sophia to her knees, but Elena had brought him to his. As the sisters watched the sunset from the penthouse balcony, Sophia squeezed Elena's hand. Thank you for everything. Elena smiled. That's what sisters are for. Revenge, served cold and calculated. Word count 1028.